people who signed the contract. They are in court.
You spare big fish and roast the small fish.
No, let me just finish.
Yeah.
Because I need Linus. You know, I am a fair person, and I am a believer in the rule of law. Even though I may not like you, but I must respect that there is a due process. The moment, you know, in crime, believe you me, I will take the action that is necessary. But if somebody is taken through a process and that process comes out without an indictment, I mean, surely we must give somebody the benefit of doubt until it is proven. But, and the fact that the CEO, general manager, and all the people that were there who actually evidence was found have been arraigned in court. Isn't that a step in the right direction?
What a political responsibility. What a political responsibility.
Let me finish. And then number three, the other one you asked me was edible oil. The people who are involved in edible oil, I fired them, and they are in court. We have a new management in Kenya National Trading Corporation. In fact, we've just hired a new management for the Kenya National Trading Corporation. So those are actions that I have taken. And for your information,
void of what Joe is calling political responsibility.
Yeah.
I mean, but you see, else in the ministry can be.
But you see, gentlemen, if there is no evidence against a minister, surely, do you want me to fire somebody if there is no evidence? You know, there was a time Uhuru Kenyatta, as I served him as his deputy, removed 6 cabinet secretaries. But eventually, they were found that they were innocent, and we had to appoint them to be ambassadors. You know, so some of these, you know, actions must be tampered with process of law, you know, due process. So unless we follow due process, gentlemen, we will end up being something else.
Up to this, just a moment, Eric, in a moment, because up to this point, Your Excellency, if I don't want us to lose the context, the last 2 weeks have been extraordinary. We've never seen anything like this. You have KDF troops in the streets of Nairobi. Up to this point, Your Excellency, and including on the question that I've just asked you of accountability within your government, do you think you are addressing the grievances that have made thousands of Kenyans across the country in places that were unimaginable to get out to the streets to say Ruto must go? Do you think up to this point they feel you've addressed their grievances?
I am not in their space. So I am doing what I believe I should be doing. I have taken the responsibility to withdraw the finance bill with all the attendant consequences. That I have done. I know what it means, and I know where it takes the country, and it is not a simple decision for me to make. And for your information, the finance bill was going to take Kenya big steps forward. But it's a sacrifice I've had to make because of the political reality that we are in. But it will mean counties will have to take maybe 30 billion shillings off their budget. It means we have to reduce CDF by maybe 10 billion shillings. It means we have to rethink about what to do with JSS teachers. It means we have to put on the freezer. We wanted to hire another 20,000 teachers because there are kids who do not have who do not have teachers. It means we have to work on our UHC program, we thought we would upgrade, for example, Linda Mama.
Yeah.
You know, we thought we would upgrade Linda Mama.
There is something, Your Excellency.
It means we have to hold that, and it means many things.
Just hold on, what else do you want to hear? You are speaking outward, but looking at the grievances, they are also asking questions inward from you, Your Excellency. And what I can hear from these grievances that have been expressed quite loudly, you said you are not in their spaces. We sometimes get into the spaces to listen to what they are saying. And all they're saying is, you cannot be, for the next 3 years, the president that you've been for the last 2. So what is that you're going to change about?
That's why Linus.
Yes.
That's why Linus. That's why we are here. Of course, it's not going to be business as usual with the kind of reality we are faced with now. It has to be different.
Do you regret anything at all? What you should have done better? What your people would have done better?
Well, maybe there are things we should have done better. We should have communicated better. I think the biggest problem we have, even with the finance bill, because the finance bill has great things for Kenya. The finance bill says we shouldn't be importing potatoes from Europe. The finance bill says we shouldn't be importing onions or eggs from Europe. The finance bill says we should be growing our own industries. We should be manufacturing diapers in Kenya. We have 10 companies doing that. We should be manufacturing all those things in Kenya. We should be expanding our manufacturing capacity. That is what finance bill was talking to. But I am sure we will recover that when we have explained.
Yeah.
The biggest challenge that I regret is that we didn't communicate better. Maybe we failed in explaining to Kenyans what the finance bill was all about. Because I promise you, if I am given a chance to explain to the people of Kenya what was in the finance bill and what the finance bill would have done for this country, every Kenyan would have agreed with me. But my regret is that
they would say you were here, Mr. President. They said you would have explained.
We didn't explain ourselves better. Maybe my communication team failed. Maybe I'm sure my communication team failed. Our communication architecture did not deliver, did not get the message out to the people of Kenya.
Yeah.
In fact, if you look at what people were saying, they were saying, for example, there is a matter of land on the finance bill. There was no matter of land in the finance bill, not even a single line. And it is on that basis that people rejected the finance bill and many other things that were not in the finance bill.
Now, communication is about words, Mr. President. Let's go to the deeds, because when you see what Gen Zs are doing, for the first time in the history of this country, we've had protests on the altar of the Holy Family Basilica, because the young people of this country are telling you the political culture, which you've been part of having politicians speak in church, converting the platforms into, converting the pulpit into campaign platforms, must end. So I'm not hearing you addressing and looking more inward into this whole picture that the Gen Z is painting. They're not just talking about some of those things that you're raising.
On that, Linus, I have even had an occasion to speak to church leaders here. On that, on matters of politics on the pulpit, I am 100% aligned. We shouldn't be using pulpits in churches or in any other places of worship to prosecute politics. It is not right. And I agree, we need to change that culture. We need to change the culture of Harambee. Harambee started as a noble exercise. It supported many people to go to school. It supported many people to deal with the challenges of medication and hospital bills. But I think it has been stretched.
It bred corruption?
It has stretched too far. And I think it's time,
corruption?
As a country, we must stop corruption. We must stop Harambees, because it is occasioning and it is breeding, if I may say, corruption.
Yeah, because when your aide of a much lower pay grade donates 20 million shillings to a church fundraiser,
there is something fundamentally wrong. And that is why this conversation is necessary, so that we can stop it.
Conversation, Mr. President. On Wednesday, you said you are hearing that there's what the Gen Zs are saying, and you're going to initiate a conversation. We saw the head of public service release a press release saying that there is now a formation of the National Multi-Sectoral Forum that will bring together all people. And you started having conversation with church leaders. The Gen Z, upon seeing this, are saying, we did not ask for a conversation. We asked for action. So what action is going to precede this conversation? Because the conversation is another talk. It reminds people of the NADCO talks, the BBI talks,
IPPG.
the IPPG talks that just happen and they just don't end. And people are saying, we want action, Mr. President. We will participate in action, in conversations maybe later. But for now, Mr. President,
yes,
what's the action?
I promised that I will engage the young people. Yeah, I promised. I was just making good my promise. I promised a multi-sectoral forum, and that's what I have put out. I also promised that these are some of the topics I want us to discuss. I want us to discuss debt. I want us to discuss taxation. I want us to discuss unemployment. I want us to discuss corruption. I want us to discuss these issues. And it was a suggestion, and I am open. I am hearing that the young people are saying, we don't want a multi-sectoral forum. Maybe we should have an engagement with the president on X. And I am open to having an engagement with the young people on a forum that they are comfortable with.
You're ready for digital?
If they want me to engage with them on X, I will be there.
At this point, Mr. President, do you think you know what the young people want?
I have many young people in my house.
Are they telling you all is well?
The same ones that are in all these other spaces. And they want an engagement. They have ideas. They have suggestions. And I am open. If what we are doing on the digital space, on the housing program, on the export of labor, on manufacturing, if they have suggestions, I am open to those suggestions. They can improve, they can change, they can make new suggestions. And I also have a responsibility as a father, you know, because these are our children. I have also a responsibility to guide and to listen to them and to tell them, yes, on this, I agree. For example, on let's not have a spouse's office. I agree. Let's not have CASS for now. I agree. Let us not have
advisors.
Advisors. We will agree. Let us not have churches being a space for politics. I agree. So many of these areas, we need to even have a conversation. If we are paying 46% of our revenues for salaries and wages, when the legally established space should be 35%. That is why I started a conversation with Salaries and Remuneration Commission. We must deal with the issue of wages and salaries so that we bring them down to 35% and leave more money for our development. That is a conversation I am very happy about.
When? Mr. President, it's been 2 weeks. It's been 2 weeks of you saying every day we are going to have a conversation.
We just
you know what they say on social media?
I say
they call you the president of tutafanya, tutatenga, tutafanya, tutarudi.
No,
it is always futuristic.
But I'm here.
You're saying
but I'm here.
We are going to have a conversation.
I said within a week. I gave a timeline within a week. Yeah. So within a week we will have agreed on where are we meeting. Are we meeting at the X space? I am ready for that X space. Are we agreeing on this multi-sectoral? I'm waiting to see the suggestions that Kenyans have. I don't want to prescribe any suggestion, but when I give out a suggestion, I expect feedback. I expect people to say, maybe this is okay, maybe this is not okay, and then we agree on a way to move.
Mr. President, any of them analyzing what you have actually said tonight on the issue of your advisors, your cabinet, what you're going to do, what Kenyans like to call heads that are going to roll as a result of this national shame, because that is what many people have called it. You have said, watch this space. And here there are all these other things that young people are asking you about. What is that concrete thing that you're telling them tonight that I have heard you? These are the things I've heard you say since all these things started, and this is what I have done. Because you seem to have withdrawn or declined to sign this finance bill rather grudgingly, but not in good faith, having understood what people were saying. You're regretting this thing. You're saying, you guys mutaona, mmekataa lakini mutaona. That is what we're hearing.
Let me tell you that I will not lie to the country that putting down the finance bill is going to be easy. I'll not be a leader. I have to be brutally honest. And those consequences, it will start with me. To cut down the budget in my office, to remove what we call austerity, to implement an austerity program that will cut down on unnecessary stuff, unnecessary offices, or offices that we can take down. I am ready to even engage the young people and for them to, because they want an engagement. I too want an engagement for us to agree. So what do we do with the debt? What do we do with the following? What do we do with the following? They will tell me, do this, fire so-and-so, fire so-and-so, do this. And I will tell them what is possible and what I think we could do it differently. Or are you telling me that I should just listen and implement without making a contribution to the conversation? I thought we are having a conversation.
I'm just telling you what they are saying. I'm not saying anything else. I'm just telling you what I'm hearing, because you did say you are not in their spaces, but I am in their spaces.
And in 2 weeks, Your Excellency, by now you'd have known what you should do. And I mean, there are basics.
Which 2 weeks?
2 weeks of the riots and 2 weeks of the protests. It's been 2 weeks.
It started the other Monday. So let me ask you, Linus, the protests, I finally decided that because we didn't communicate sufficiently to the people of Kenya the import of the finance bill, and there was so much built around it, including a lot of fake things, that were not in the finance bill. Many things that were not in the finance bill were used to fight the finance bill. And at some point, many people did not even care what was in the finance bill. Do not care. I think, at some point, as leaders, we must stop somewhere and say, we have a country to run. I mean, we cannot be reckless. We must, at some point, stop and say, what are the consequences? Because everything we do has consequences. And we must be careful as a nation to make sure that our country does not go down to the dogs. And believe me, countries, have gone in the wrong direction. And we must be careful. And I don't want to be the leader that took the country in the wrong direction. We must be measured. We must be careful. We must listen to the young people. We must listen to other views and be able to make a carefully well thought out plan for the country out of where we are.
Yeah, but what if the protesters are actually saying something in totality about your government, not just about the finance bill? It's not about just the finance bill, is it?
Linus, as I have told you, we are a democracy. The people of Kenya can make a decision. Yeah? And I am perfectly, alive to the fact that when the people of Kenya finally, the same way they decided to elect me, when they make another decision, we will comply as the people of Kenya. That's what a democracy is all about. People can vote in a government, people can vote out a government for whatever judgment the people have. So I want to be very clear to the people of Kenya that I will do my best to make sure that I tell the country the truth and I take the country forward. And I am committed to that. And I can see Kenya changing. If I had managed to pass this finance bill, Kenya would not be the same. We would take this country to the next level. The kind of investment I have made, the kind of collaboration with many friends that we have done, we would begin to see this country soaring into the future. But all is not lost. Maybe we have taken one step back. Sometimes maybe it is necessary to take one step back to be able to take many steps forward. And that is my thinking of this situation.
But surely it must bother you, Mr. President, that 2 years ago you ran such a euphoric campaign with things like Hatupangwingwi, and 22 months down the line, your State House is surrounded by the military. The military tanks, scary as they are rolling on the streets of major cities. And as we sit here today, people are saying Ruto must go. Surely that is such a fast slide. There must be something that causes one to pause and say, how did we get here? What happened here? And one would have expected an earth-shaking statement tonight that tells the country, I get it. Something has shifted in a major way in our country, and I'm also shifting as your president who's listening, and this is the new direction things are going to take.
Let me tell you, Joe, I came into office at a difficult time. Yeah? We have a combination of coming out of COVID. We have a serious drought that hit our country. We had interest rates that went up everywhere. We went into a very difficult situation. What did many countries do? Many countries went and defaulted. And I don't want to mention countries because it's not right to mention. But almost 8 countries in Africa went down. Many people expected Kenya to be among the 8. But believe you me, I have carefully managed the economy of Kenya. Kenya is not among the countries that have defaulted. If anything, we have running programs in Kenya. We have a whole housing program that is running. We have a whole digital program that is running. We have made changes in our education. We've hired more teachers. We've made sure that we have a new funding model for our universities. We have supported our farmers. We have reduced the cost of living. We have done many things, even in the context of all the challenges that we have had. I am telling you, I came in, and I believe I'm the right person to be in this space when Kenya is in a difficult position, because I believe I am the person who can sort out the challenges that faces Kenya at a point like this.
But when the public and the protesters, the Gen Z, some of who actually formed the base of your election campaign, are telling you, we are disappointed, you've not delivered. Hashtag Ruto must go. What do you tell them?
Let me tell them the following. Good friends, the young people of our nation, my sons and daughters who supported me to win the election. I hear you. In fact, I saw, I think it was on your headline, a gentleman from my village who was saying, the president has let us down. Many children in this village are not getting jobs locally. That is why they are going abroad. Little did he know, my good friend from my village, that the children, the 500 of his colleagues around our village, are actually part of my plan on export of labor. They have actually, I intentionally supported them to leave the country because we got them jobs outside Kenya. So I am telling the young people of our nation to be patient. Our housing program is rolling. We will be hiring more architects, we will be hiring more engineers, we will be hiring more professionals to support our housing program. In the next 2 years, we will have 300, maybe 1,000 people working in that space. Be patient. We are sorting out the challenges that are facing our digital space. We are rolling out our digital space. Young guys, by the end of next year, God willing, we will have a digital hub in every ward in Kenya because we have already started that process. Every TVET in Kenya today has an ICT hub with young people monetizing their talent. I want to tell them we are full speed into manufacturing. That is why we're saying we're no longer importing clinker, we're no longer importing steel, we're no longer importing clinker, we are no longer importing furniture. We are going to stop importing eggs. We're going to stop importing onions and all this because we want to promote our local manufacturing to be able to create jobs for them. We are no longer going to be importing diapers or sanitary pads from other countries. They are going to be manufactured here.
Mr. President,
I have worked with the industries to make sure that we create opportunities for these young people. We're going to work with them to deal with the challenge of corruption. We're going to work with them to cut down on government like this. I am going to make sure that we have a lean government that responds to the reality of where we are as a country. That is what I am telling my good young people.
The young people. There's another group of young people. Please speak to them directly.
Yes.
The young doctors who are in university graduating this year,
yes,
who are going to look for internship
correct,
the next year. The young JS teachers who were on strike a couple of weeks ago, who are expecting to be absorbed into full permanent and pensionable contracts
correct,
this year. The young clinical officers also who are graduating and they expect to go on internship. The other clinical officers who are hired on contract during COVID and other programs that are just contracts, and contracts are coming to an end.
I am telling the JSS teachers, I had factored in 18 billion shillings in this year's finance bill to be able to transfer them to permanent and pensionable. Because in my phone, so many of them have asked me, Mr. President, we came in, we had an agreement that we are going to be interns for 2 years, we will move to permanent and pensionable. Although I don't have the finance bill, I want to tell them, give me a bit of time, let me figure this out, how we are going to do it without the finance bill. We had also put 3 billion shillings for the doctors so that we can be able to sort them out, especially the intern doctors and those who we intended to hire to, under our UHC program. I had put 10 billion shillings on the UHC program under the finance bill. That is now not in the equation. I have to figure out, let them just give me a little time. I'm going to figure it out again because I know and I feel and I made a commitment to them that we will do this. So even in the absence of the finance bill, and even as we cut down on expenditure on many other areas, it is still my commitment that we will see what to do with them so that the job they are doing in teaching our children, in treating our people, do not go to waste.
Mr. President, we're almost winding down this, but have you noticed that those young people, they actually have worked out the things that they believe you can take out and still be able to do the important things? Because you seem to have this elaborate plan, and I'm wondering where their views will fit in, because you seem to have this all worked out, but they probably don't want all those things.
That is why
they have figured out.
That is why, you know, part of what I told you, Joe, is communicating, you know, and I hope this time round I find a medium where I can engage, you know. And I am ready to go to this X place to engage with them. And I want to tell them, this is my plan, okay? Tell me how I can make this better. Tell me this is not good enough, you know? Change this. Because I have seen some of the demands they have made. They have said that don't hire CASs, and I agree with them. They have said, remove the office of the first lady, the spouse of the second lady and all that, and I have agreed with them. They have said a couple of things that we already are in agreement. They have, of course, said some of the things, abolish the office of women rep. I've seen they have also said we should reduce the salaries of MPs to 200,000 or something. Some of those things are things that are not in my power. Those are the things that we need to do a whole of society, a whole of nation approach, so that if we are bringing down salaries from 1.1 trillion to 700 billion, that is something I am willing, and I am ready to start with my own salary, going down to salaries of others, so that we can all live within our means.
Your Excellency, we're now going to our final questions. And my final question will be about the protests and the deployment of KDF, which you did a few days ago. Now, the Gen Z, millennials, and the online Kenyans that are organizing these protests are promising to be back on the streets on Tuesday. What should we expect on Tuesday when protesters, peaceful as some of them have been, turn up on the streets of Nairobi? Do we expect them to be chased away by the Kenya Defense Forces?
First, the Kenya Defense Forces will not be on the street. They only come as a last resort. If the demonstrations will be peaceful, I promise you, the police will be there to protect the demonstrators. But the police will also be there to make sure that the criminals, the fellows who come to burn offices, the fellows who come to loot property, will also be dealt with. That is my commitment. We must all operate within the law, and that is what it is.
My final question is on the elephant in the room, the elephant in our budget, public debt. Candidate William Ruto responded to a question during the debate, and he said he's going to commission an audit of the public debt. President William Ruto last year responded to the same question and said it's important for us to audit our public debt. Today's question is when?
Public debt is actually a public document where we are as a country. The 10-point-something trillion of our debt is in the public domain. But I am prepared for us to put in forensic experts as part of this exercise so that we can all appreciate, yes, this is what we owe, and then agree, how do we pay? How do we deal with it? In fact, I was in Korea. In fact, Korea, when they had a problem of debt, the whole nation came together. And people contributed gold. Others contributed many things because they wanted to pay their national debt. Maybe we will need that conversation once we are all clear that this is public debt.
My question, Mr. President, is when?
As soon as we finish this conversation, once we have agreed that this is the way we are going, I will institute the necessary steps to make sure that that debt is audited and it is made public for Kenyans to know this is the public debt. And I'm sure it will not take a month for us to be able to know, what is Kenya's public debt? And then we can take it up from there and go forward.
Mr. President, my final question is about your cabinet. Given the things that have happened, given the questions that have been raised about fertilizer, about edible oils, about sugar and all of that, tonight, can you look Kenyans in the eye and tell them you have full confidence in the cabinet that is currently helping you to run the country?
The cabinet that I have maybe could have done better.
That's not the question, Mr. President.
Maybe could have done better. I'm answering your question.
Okay.
Yeah? Maybe, unless you have a better answer. Allow me to answer.
No, I just thought my question was specific, but you can
that's
go
what
ahead.
I'm saying. So maybe my cabinet would have done better, right? And I am going to do a soul searching on how we need to move forward.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. President, for your time. Ladies and gentlemen, that is where we end this conversation with the President tonight. My colleagues have been Lena Skaikai from Citizen TV, Royal Media Services, and Eric Latif representing KTN News from the Standard Media Group. And my name is Joe Ageyo from NTV. Do have a lovely evening.
Set up.